Piano is a 2013 film starring Elijah Wood and John Cusack, written by Damian Chazelle and directed by Eugenio Mira. The movie follows Tom Selznick, an extremely gifted pianist who has not performed in public for 5 years due to stage fright. On the night of his comeback concert, he takes the stage and finds a note in his sheet music. Play one wrong note and you die. Suddenly realizing a sniper is hiding in the theater, Tom must try to survive the concert along with his wife, an actress who is sitting in the audience. I love shopping for movies to add to my collection, and one of my favorite things is stumbling across a movie I've never heard of and then realizing it's right up my alley. And that's what happened here. I had never heard of this movie and had no idea what the plot was. But once I read what it was all about, I was very curious what a movie set almost entirely during a piano concert would be like. And it did not disappoint. Grand Piano is a high-concept thriller. It's very engaging and at times incredibly tense. Now, Hitchcockian is a term that is thrown around a lot when people talk about thrillers. Sometimes to the point where I'm thinking, Alfred Hitchcock didn't really make movies like that. But I am going to use the term here. This movie is very Hitchcockian. The most obvious comparison is to The Man Who Knew Too Much, with a potential assassination taking place during a concert. But also, the camera work was very reminiscent of any number of Hitchcock films. The extreme close-ups, the whip pans, the camera is often making you take notice of it, which is something I've often thought while watching many films by the master of suspense. The cinematography is definitely one of the highlights of the movie. Since this movie is basically a one-location film, it does something that I always appreciate in movies like that. And that is that the director and cinematographer are working very hard to distract from the fact that we're in the same building for the whole movie. It could be very easy to make a boring film when you're stuck in one location. Most movies thrive off the fact that we're going to multiple locations, or multiple cities or countries, and that is what keeps the attention of audiences that often have a very short attention span. But here, the camera is always moving, swooping through the orchestra, around the piano, inside the piano, tracking with our protagonist as he works his way through the theater at different points, sometimes during the concert. And all of that contributes to a movie that is very stylized and just extremely fun to look at and watch. There are several shots that are obviously aided by CGI, and not all of the effects look amazing, but there are also some shots that you can't tell, and you're wondering how they managed to pull it off. There's one shot in particular that is made to appear as one continuous take, following a character as he leaves the audience and makes his way into the halls of the theater. I won't talk about everything that happens in between, but the shot ends in a split screen, with this character on the one side and the other half of the screen zooming in on Tom Selznick's face while still seated at the piano. It was so dynamic, as most of the movie is, and very memorable. Continuing on with the visuals, I really enjoyed the set design of the theater, and in particular the backdrop of the stage. It's very dramatic, with the shiny black floor, the black and gold on each side, and the crimson red curtains in the middle just almost shooting up from the piano. This movie is also very well edited. Just as an example, there is a murder that takes place at one point, and just at the moment when the victim is about to have their throat slit, we abruptly cut to a violin bow sawing across the strings of a violin. I thought it was a great touch, and also in keeping with that old-fashioned Hitchcock feel. On another note, I'm a big fan of the Mission Impossible franchise, and there is a fight scene here that takes place on the catwalks high above the stage. If you've seen Mission Impossible Rogue Nation, you'll know there is a similar scene in that film, and both are very tense and well shot. I personally hate heights, but I do enjoy when movies exploit that fear for the benefit of a good scene. Getting to the cast and the performances, something that stood out to me is the fact that almost across the board, the performances are all kind of heightened, which also brings to mind older films. More subtle, naturalistic acting is often thought to be more tied to modern film, and I don't totally agree with that, depending on the actor in the film. There were plenty of actors that had understated personas and acting styles, but it was definitely more common in older movies to see broader acting. And that was the sense I got here. No one in the movie is exactly underplaying, which works great in this kind of movie. Everyone's emotions are very close to the surface, and that all just adds to the visceral experience of watching this movie. Elijah Wood plays Tom Selznick, and he is very believable as the already nervous to begin with pianist, who becomes more and more desperate throughout the movie. From what I've read, he apparently was actually playing the piano in certain sections of the movie. And it's a credit to the movie that you can never tell which sections he is or isn't. I also play the piano, not anywhere near to the extent or skill of the character in this movie, but that feeling of being petrified to play in front of an audience is something I have felt, and that feeling is still very much in the back of my mind. So if you have also dealt with that, it's an added layer of tension that adds to the enjoyment, I'll call it, of watching this movie. John Cusack plays Clem, the sniper who is watching and tormenting Tom. He also is quite good in the movie, although I was surprised to find he's not on screen a lot. He's very present during the film, but most of that is due to him forcing Tom to retrieve an earpiece during the concert so he can communicate with him. He's able to give him direction that way and keep up a steady stream of threats about what will happen to Tom or his wife if he tries to get help or deviate from Clem's instructions. He's very intimidating, he has a great voice for this type of role, and overall was a great choice for the villain. Alan Leach, who most people know as Branson from Downton Abbey, is also in the film, playing a friend of Tom's wife, who was at the concert. His performance is a huge departure from his role in Downton Abbey, and serves as something of a comedic character here, along with his wife or girlfriend. It's not totally clear what the relationships are between all of the characters, and that's very much a product of the breakneck pace this movie moves at. We, the audience, are thrown right into the middle of the story, without the slower setup time that lots of movies provide us with. So it's up to us to figure out who is who and how they all relate together. I don't mind being forced to work a little bit to figure everything out, and ultimately, everything that is crucial to the plot is very easy to follow. Alex Winter plays an usher at the theater, and I won't say any more than that about that character, other than to say I was very surprised by the direction his character took, and what he is capable of. Another very good performance. As I said at the top of the review, the movie was written by Damian Chazelle, who would go on to much acclaim as the director of La La Land and First Man, and he is also one of the writers of another thriller, 10 Cloverfield Lane. It also is a very unique, suspenseful film, and I would recommend that one as well. One last thing, the music was by Victor Reyes, and the one track that stood out to me in particular was the song that plays over the opening credits. In a further nod to films of an earlier era, the film has full credits at the beginning, and that opening song, which is all on piano, brought to mind Ennio Morricone's score for The Untouchables. I really love that score, I've listened to it many times, and that foreboding, pulsing sound on the low notes of the piano just brought back memories of the theme music from that film. I thought it set the mood extremely well. So, I think this was a very well made movie. It somehow completely slipped under my radar until just recently, so if you missed it too, I would say you should check it out. It clocks in at exactly 90 minutes, it's very tightly paced, and managed to turn a classical concert into something very thrilling. Highly recommended. Thanks for watching my review. If you enjoyed it, please check back to my channel, and if you've seen Grand Piano, comment down below and let me know what you thought of it as well. Thanks again, and adios for now.